You were saying something recently when we were talking about toxic positivity.
Yeah.
So it's like if I feel that I shouldn't feel pain,
Right.
or it's like I deserve to always be happy.
Oh.
It's like all of these ideas. It's like, and what happens when you're not?
Right.
How are you going to treat yourself?
Well, I'm just trying to manifest more happiness. The other day I didn't manifest as much, so I used a vision board. And then what I did was I used a little bit of Kundalini to bring up that energy. And then I ate some crystal shards. I find that they're difficult. They pierce the inner lining of my large and small intestines.
But
But
the-
it brings the
candy?
light.
Yeah.
Yeah, rock candy.
But the most important thing I think for leaders, for facilitators,
Yeah.
mentors, people that work with other people, and I know you know this deeply, is that like if you can't integrate your own pain,
Right.
and respect it and bow down also to your own pain, you're not going to be reliable with other people in those experiences. So if you can't tolerate sadness, or you can't tolerate grief, or you feel like you shouldn't have it, what happens when I have it?
Right.
How, are you going to be reliable to me as a friend?
Right.
It's like I'm not going to go.
Or are you
to
going to should you? Like, well,
Right.
what you should have done was...
Did you eat your crystals today?
Yeah, did you eat your crystals?
Well, they just won't show up to your father's funeral.
Yeah, they won't.
That's just what happens.
They don't
Right.
The
show
people
up.
who can't manage the pain.
They don't show up for
Right.
the stuff.
They don't
Right.
show up for your family when they've had a passing. They just
Or
they don't-
when you've talked about that one thing or that one breakup or that one painful thing one too many times, they're like, okay, well now I'm tired of you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
well,
it's
here's an
endurance.
example. Like I had one of my best friends died a few years ago, had a heart attack, unfortunately, and I helped organize the funeral and helped his family with like even picking out the casket and stuff like that, because he was Nigerian but also Canadian immigrant, lived in Canada, but his family was all in Nigeria, and they couldn't come to Canada for the funeral. But he had other friends in town, and even people that I knew, and thought were his friends. And when it came time for all this stuff that were related to the heavy lifting of
Yes.
his death and
Yeah.
the funeral, they weren't there.
Ghosts.
And I was like, I saw that you hearted him his death on Facebook, but that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
Where are you?
Yeah.
And so that's the danger.
Did they use a sad emoji? Because if they didn't use a sad emoji, there's a series of emojis you need to put in there, which would be downward, thumb, sad face, scrunchy, emotional.
So that's, I think, the danger of like not being fluent with pain.
Right.
In some degree in your life is you're not reliable. You're not a reliable person.
Well, and then we use not only the toxic positivity stuff that can be in the new agey thing, but even in the evangelical world of, or like that you're going to be able to pray your way through it, or God's going to deliver you. I'm like, have you read the Bible? There was some really shitty things that went on for the people
Right.
along the way,
especially the true believers.
I mean, there's some bad stuff that goes on, and so I think of Elijah as like one of my favorite stories. That Elijah would be like the modern day social media. So there's a challenge between the new God in town. So let's say the new social media platform. They're like, what's better, Facebook or Instagram? But so basically, Elijah gets called out on this to say, I think maybe the god of Baal or something, and so he needed to call fire from the heavens, and so. The one group, the false god, they basically were building a fire with everything they needed, timber, oil. They had it all ready, and they were waiting for a spark, for the divine spark to light it. And nothing happened. Now Elijah at this point is being really ballsy. He's not a metaverse guy from the way stuff floating around. He's fully integrated, and in this particular moment, he's feeling it in his balls all the way. And so what he says is, just put stack rocks, and pour water on it. And the other people did their ritual, and they called on their God, and they called on their God, and they did this whole thing. And then finally Elijah just speaks, he just calls on God once.
Uh-huh.
And fire comes from the heavens and melts the rocks. And the people were terrified, and they scattered, and they didn't know what to do. And instead of feeling confident, Elijah runs away. Elijah's my favorite. Elijah runs away. He runs away, and he runs as far away as he can, and he hides in a cave. He hides in a cave, and he's like, God, where are you? Where did you go? And the guy's like, fire, sky. So Elijah's in the cave, which I like to do. I like to go to the cave. When my depression hits, I go to the cave. And so he's like, "Where are you, God?" And he goes out into the storm. There's a big storm, thunder and lightning. He doesn't hear God's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then another day, there's a big wind, like a sandstorm. God's not in the sandstorm. It's not in the rain. It's not in the lightning. Not in the snow. Not in the fog. Not in the night sky. It wasn't until it was a still, small voice. When he got still and he got quiet and he got alone and got still enough, he could hear the, "Go deliver my message." Follow the calling. It wasn't in the storm. It wasn't in the fire. It wasn't in the rain. It was in the stillness. And I think the problem in the metaverse, the problem with all of these images that were on our screens, is that we're not allowed to get still.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking for these big fire moments. But when we have to retreat into ourselves and to be alone in it, and we can't connect to the sacred or the divine, we can't connect to the sacred and divine because we can't even take a shit without checking our Instagram.
Right.
So my problem with the metaverse is you're not conversing with the divine, you're not conversing with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're not getting quiet, and you're not making space to what the fear is teaching us. Because if the life is good, then the faith and the fear is also a teacher. As a climber, that fear keeps me alive. They kept you alive on your journey.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason. So I challenge people to, and that's hard for me too, because I want to numb myself out. Because if I listen and I get quiet enough and I hear the voice of God, He's going to lead me.
Right. Right. Make use of you.
Right.
Yeah.
To go on the adventure, and there will be suffering, and there will be joy, and there will be intimacy, and there will be betrayal and loss, but I'll be alive until I die.